Hi, I'm Dr. Diana Hill, clinical psychologist and host of Your Life in Process. And the question that we are exploring today is, what do you want to do with this one wild and precious life? My neighbor had that written on a chalkboard in her kitchen during the pandemic. And I'd go over there quite often, maybe to borrow a stick of butter or to say hello. And I would see that on the board. And it's a question that I've been asking myself over the past number of years. A quote from Mary Oliver, a beautiful poet, and a question that I hope that you will start to ask yourself if you haven't already. This line, what do you want to do, has possibility in it, that you actually have a choice in the life that you create. A lot of times we can get stuck in self-stories where we see ourselves as a victim, or we see ourselves as a perpetual rescuer of others, or we don't believe that we're good enough, or we don't believe that we deserve, or we believe that we are the best and we deserve a lot. But all of those are stories that can really box us in. And the question of what do you want to do? An open-ended question that you have the possibility of creating a life that is fulfilling to you is the first part. And the second line of that question is this wild and precious life. And the word wild is so appropriate because if you look back and think back over your life thus far, it has been quite wild, my friend. I'm sure it has, because I hear the lives of many in my practice and how wild they are. Over the periods of time that I see a client, people will die, people will get sick, people will get married, people will have babies, people will move, people will lose their jobs, they'll get amazing job opportunities. And it's all sort of wild. It's unpredictable. And how do we move with that and within that unpredictability? How do we ride it skillfully, riding the wave of change that happens in our lives? And what do we want to do with this one wild and precious life? So precious. We all lose things, and we lose things about ourselves. Our own bodies change. We lose people that we love. We lose places, even our planet, aspects of our planet that we love. And how do we begin to see the things that we have in the present moment as precious, as impermanent? And what do we want to do given that impermanence? The answers to that question of what do you want to do with this one wild and precious life are answers that have to do with wise effort. And that's why I gathered together this group of individuals who really are a dream team to talk to. It's such an incredible privilege to talk to these folks that are coming in from so many different angles and perspectives on what it means to live with wise effort. On day one of the event, I will be talking about curiosity, this topic of curiosity, with Jack Kornfield and Trudy Goodman, who are married. They got married much later in life. They had full lives before they got married. Trudy is the founder of Insight LA, where I've been teaching for a number of years, a beautiful organization. And Jack Kornfield, founder of Spirit Rock and former monk, and also just incredible human. And actually, the term wise effort actually came from a conversation that I had with Jack when I was in Blue Spirit, Costa Rica with him. And we had lunch together, and I was trying to describe to him this concept that I've been noodling around on, this concept of the preciousness of our energy and how do we use our energy in ways that are fruitful for ourselves and for other people, but that don't burn us out. And I said to him, Jack, it's sort of like wise effort in Buddhism. It's wise effort in that Eightfold Path. And he looked at me and said, yeah, wise effort. So we'll be talking with Jack about what it means from a Buddhist perspective to practice wise effort. But let me just start day one, curiosity, this conversation with Jack, and what he had to share with you as a little teaching.
It doesn't take long to talk to your heart and your body. You can close your eyes even now and ask your body, what would really make a difference in my well-being in these next weeks, months ahead? And you can ask your heart the same question, what would really make a difference in my well-being for myself and others? And it will start to answer. And you turn the direction of your energy or your life in that direction to develop or cultivate and to sustain it.
What would really make a difference? And as you ask yourself that question, you may also come across something else, which is suffering, pain. And sometimes what would make a difference means having to face something that is painful. Trudy Goodman has some wisdom on that. Let's listen to her on day one of Wise Effort Together.
There's an expression that I really love in Buddhist psychology, the turning towards suffering and allowing oneself to feel it fully is called the suffering that leads to the end of suffering. There's the suffering that's just suffering. There's the suffering that, depending on how we handle it, is going to just perpetuate the suffering. And then with that willingness, I think of it as a kind of spiritual bravery, the willingness to turn toward it and really feel it. That is the suffering that leads to the end of suffering.
On day one of Wise Effort Together, I also talk with Kate Johnson, who is the author of the book Radical Friendship. When you consider facing suffering, something that is painful, it would help to have a friend along the way, whether that's you being a friend to yourself or you having radical friends in your life, or you being a radical friend to somebody else in your life that is facing suffering, or a group of people, or even two strangers. In my conversation with Kate, she talks about the 7 characteristics of a spiritual friend, Kalyanamitta, in the Buddhist Kalyanamitta Sutta. And here she lists these 7 qualities of a spiritual friend that we dive more deeply into in our conversation, and that I also offer you some handouts of. So one of the things that is different about this event is that it's not just me talking to folks. You'll be getting handouts and practices and worksheets, as well as some body-based practices with me. So on day one with Curiosity, we do a meditation together. So let's listen to Kate Johnson on what it means to be a spiritual friend, a radical friend.
The radical friend is one who gives what is hard to give. So here's anything about generosity, does what is hard to do. Certainly think about wise effort for that. Endures what is hard to endure. Resilience. Tells you their secrets. Think about honesty. Keeps your secrets. Compassionate listening. When misfortune strikes, they won't abandon you. So really think about loyalty and the quality of staying that we can actually really, really cultivate in the meditation practice. And then the last one is when you're down and out, it won't down on you. And I think that really invokes not only equanimity, but like the true sense of compassion, where even when our friend is down and out, even when we're down and out, we don't lose sight of that person's bodhicitta, and we open our heart to their suffering, but also remember they have everything they need to wake up within the circumstances of their lives. Like this is their sacred journey.
Each day of the summit, you'll also get to hear from some of my friends, folks that I think of as really living embodiments of wise effort. There are people like Sonia Looney, who you've heard on the show, the world champion mountain biker and good friend of mine, and Julia Preziosa, who's an incredible therapist and specialist in trauma. You'll hear from Judd Brewer, you'll hear from George Mumford, you'll hear from Brother Phaphu and from Brianna Pettit. On day 2, we start to explore flexibility, and we explore flexibility in 2 ways, both psychological flexibility and nervous system flexibility. And Joe Sorochi, who you've heard on this show, he's a lead researcher in process-based therapy and ACT. He tackled the concept of emptiness in its relationship to wise effort, which has to do with our sense of self. But Joe has such a great way of identifying and describing what it means to be psychologically flexible and how that is intertwined with us making a choice in what we want to do with this one wild and precious life. If we're unable to ride its wildness, or if we don't feel like we have a choice, or we're stuck in old patterns, then we don't move. I mean, we become inflexible, we become unwise. Let's listen to what Joe has to say about that.
Humans are constantly acting in ways that are not in their best interest. And this is really pretty unique to humans, that we will keep repeating the same destructive actions in our lives, even when it's clearly not working, not helping us. We'll stay in the same bad relationship, or we'll keep doing the same bad habits, or we'll insist that the world be different and we'll close our eyes to it. And so that would be like unwise effort, is that kind of failure to change when things are clearly not working. That would be psychological inflexibility. And that looks like our kind of shutting down a life, pretending life's different than it is, and not paying attention to the present moment and not adapting to the world as it changes. So now we go to the opposite. Wisdom or wise effort is more like psychological flexibility, where you're able to connect with the present moment honestly. You don't lie to yourself. You're able to persist at the things you care about. So that means to be wise, you have to know what's important and what you care about. And when the world changes on you, you're able to change without screaming, why is it changing? Why? This is so unfair. The world shouldn't do this to me. You're able to change. It's unpleasant, but you're able to change and keep doing the things you care about. So persisting and changing, connecting with the present moment, knowing what you care about, that is kind of encapsulates wise effort.
To be able to persist and change and connect with the present moment and know what you care about also requires your ability to be in tune with your own inner world, your nervous system. Sometimes when we are in an unwise effort place, it's because we've been caught up in some kind of pattern. We've been threatened in some way. We're being defensive. We're not feeling connected with ourselves or with other people. And we're acting from this place of threat or drive, opposed to a place of centeredness, stability, equanimity. And so I talked with Stephan Porges, the founder of polyvagal theory, all about that. And he had many tips to share about how to retune your nervous system, including one that I hadn't heard before. But let's listen to what he had to say about interoception.
So for me, step number one is being aware of that physiological shift, which is really a journey of interoception, in a sense, monitoring your physiological state. And what we have learned from the world of trauma is what is one of the first systems that is really greatly dysfunctional or greatly impacted by trauma. It's interoception. It's the actual feeling of the body or feeling bodily feelings. And so people become numb to their own bodily change. So I think most therapies, including trauma therapy, are about a journey of embodiment, a journey of awareness of one's own physiological state.
On the second day of Wise Effort Together with this flexibility theme, if you sign up for the All Access Pass, you'll get access to a breathwork practice that is designed to activate your vagus nerve, but also bring more awareness to your body, this interoception. And you'll also have access to what I call Diana's daily practices, which are very much like your daily practice on this podcast, where you'll have these PDF downloads of how to bring what you learn each day into your life. And then day 3, we move into wise action. What do you want to do with this one wild and precious life? How do you want to take action? And looking at wise action, not only to benefit you, but really to also benefit the greater whole. We open the day with Marcela Matos, who you may have heard on this podcast. She's a researcher in Portugal who is doing groundbreaking research in the area of compassion. And she shares some of the most current data from a study where she's looking at physiological measures and epigenetic changes as a result of compassion practice. And then she also guides us through a compassion practice at the end of our conversation. Let's listen to what Marcela Matos has to say about compassion.
It's very easy when we don't have that critical or that shaming voice in our ears to be compassionate towards ourselves, for example, or to others when others are being nice and kind and not irritating. It is very easy to be compassionate. The problem, but also the key is, how can we learn to activate this motivation we all share to be compassionate? And these qualities of wisdom, of caring commitment, and of courage to actually address these difficulties when they arise. Because it is in these moments that we need compassion the most. And so we have the metaphor of compassion as the lotus flower that blossoms in the mud, because it is in the darkness of our common humanity, of the struggles we all share as human beings. It is in the difficult moments of our lives. It is in the callous side of our human mind that we need this motivation to be activated. So embodying compassion is key. Not enough to practice this when we are sitting down in our cushion or in our car or laying in our beds or just with our friends. And we can start there, but it's important that slowly and steadily we move towards using these competencies to actually address more difficult situations.
And when we ask ourselves this question of what we want to do with this one wild and precious life, oftentimes our answer will involve other people. And part of wise action is the action that will be deepening your relationships, because a good relationship is one of the best things you can do for your health, for your well-being, for your longevity, as some of the research that's come out of the Harvard Health Study has shown us. So I'll be talking about that with Robert Waldinger. And I really ask him to nail down for us what are some things that we can do to take action to improve our relationships. Here's one thing that he had to say.
One of the things we know is that when people are curious about other people, all kinds of good things happen in relationships, because we all want to be seen, right? And we love it when people are interested in us. So that quality of curiosity is something that can bring new understanding to a relationship where you're mad at somebody or don't understand how they can be the way they are, to just be really curious about, how does that work for you? How is it that you've come to feel that way? And the other thing about curiosity is that it really engages people. So if you want to make a new relationship, being curious about somebody is one of the best ways to do that, because people love to talk about themselves. And if you're genuinely curious, you're going to create a connection with somebody that they will appreciate.
To listen to all these conversations, you can sign up for free at Wise Effort Together, and you'll get access to all of these conversations on the days of the event, which are October 20th through 22nd. If you want a little more time with them so that you can have access over the next few months all the way into January, then you can sign up for an all-access pass, and there's a coupon code to get $40 off that I will put in the show notes. You also will get some of these body-based practices that I've been talking about, and on the last day, I'm offering yoga. And I'll be offering two different ones. One is a chair yoga, which is great just to learn about some moves that you can do in your chair if you're at work, if you're on an airplane, or if you have a disability that makes it difficult to stand or get on the floor. And the other one is a practice that starts on the floor and then moves up to standing poses. So if you're just wanting something to be only on the floor, you can definitely do this second one. And I let you know in the practice when we're going to be moving up to standing. The yoga practice incorporates all of the teachings that we learn throughout and kind of get them into your body in a more embodied way. And on that last day, I also have a live question and answer session for those that have the all access pass, which is $99, but with the $40 off, it'll be $59 up until the day before the event. So go ahead and sign up at wiseefforttogether.com if you want to join me for that live 1 hour question and answer session as well. And then we close out the day with Christiana Figueres, who has really changed my whole perspective around climate change and climate change anxiety, which I certainly have and have for my children. And she approaches climate change with this angle of stubborn optimism, radical regeneration, endless abundance, and gives us some hope around what we can actually do to take action for climate change. What do you want to do with this one wild and precious planet that we have? Christiana Figueres has a lot to tell us and a lot to share with us as the daughter of the former president of Costa Rica, as a major player in activism and climate change. Let's listen to what she has to say on the last day of Wise Effort Together.
We have to be radical in our conviction that we need to regenerate ourselves, our souls, our hearts, our energies, in order to be able to stand up in the world. We have to be able to tap into that deep conviction that we do. We do have it. It is there inside of us, just like nature is showing that she has it, that she has that resilience. And the two are not different from each other. So if nature is being able to do that under circumstances of threat, of polluting waters, under heating waters, if nature is able to do that, how much more should we be able to do that?
Okay, folks. So what do you want to do with this one wild and precious October of yours? I hope that it will be with us at Wise Effort Together. And so go sign up at wiseefforttogether.com. This has been a lot of effort to put together, and I really believe it's wise effort. It's a good use of our time. So I'll see you in October 20th to 22nd and beyond.